Good afternoon, everyone. Today is another in-depth training session. The session today is going to be over how to track additional company, customer, and transaction information by using UDFs. What a UDF is, it's what we call a user-defined field. And basically what that means is it's a field that you can use to define what type of information goes into that particular field, and also you can use it to track whatever information it is that you would like to track on either the company, the contact, or on a transaction level. So first we're going to start off by looking at the existing fields to kind of see where those values are found, and then we'll kind of delve into how to actually create your own UDFs and how you can use those to help further track this information in the system. So what we want to start off by doing is we're just going to pull up an existing company in the system. It doesn't matter who. So we'll just do Explore Companies, get our company list, and I will just double-click on one of the companies to select that record. So once I'm in the company record, one of the tabs that shows is the User-Defined Field tab. So when I click on that, it gives me all the current UDFs that have been created on the company level. If we take a look here, there's a couple of predefined UDFs that are already in the system. But a couple examples of some UDFs that you can use on the company level are, we have one on here for prefers paper statements. So you could create a UDF that you can use when you're looking up your customer list to exclude customers that don't want their statement emailed to them. You got a FedEx number. So if you wanted to, if this customer has a specific FedEx number that you'd want to store on their company record, you could put that there. If the customer prefers their invoices emailed, you can create a checkbox that goes there. Any type of information that you'd want to track on a company level, you could create as a company UDF. So to go along with that, if I click on the Contact tab for this company record, I can click on my different contacts, and then the contacts have their own user-defined field tab as well. So if I click on that, I get a brand new set of UDFs that are pertaining only to the contact within this company record. So I have right here as some examples, I have some referral information. Some other typical UDFs that I've seen used are login information. If you run a website and you want to kind of store a customer's login information so that if they ask you for that information, you can give it to them easily, you could store that on the contact record. You could store, along with a FedEx number, maybe this contact has their own FedEx number. You could create a FedEx number contact UDF to track that as well. So you can use this to track not only just the company information, but information for a particular contact within that company. And then the last thing that we want to do is I'm going to go up and say Explore Orders. Oops. Refresh this list. And just pick any random order. And then there, on the order, there is a user-defined field as well. And this has all the UDFs that have been created on a transaction level. Transaction level UDFs are not just for orders, though. You can do transaction level UDFs for orders, for estimates, and for service tickets. So that's how you can look up the different fields. So now let's take a look at how to actually go through and create the UDFs in the system. So I'm going to just reset back to our main screen. So now if I go up to Setup, User-Defined Field Setup, this has my different types of UDF classification fields. So I've got my company UDFs here, I've got my contact UDFs here, and I've got my transaction UDFs here. So if I want to create a new type of UDF, all I have to do is select the type of UDF I want to create, and I can click on Add. So it adds a new field at the bottom, so now we can do our brand new UDF. So right now we have a FedEx number. So let's go ahead and do a UPS number as an example to do a UDF. So the very first thing it's going to ask you for is the name of the UDF. This is what the UDF is tracked under so that you know what the field is meant for. The next section is the description. The description is purely just asking you for a description of what the UDF is used for. It doesn't show up anywhere in the system. It's purely meant for if somebody is looking through the set of UDFs that have been created, it will kind of let them know what the purpose of this UDF is meant for. The next section is very important. That is what the data type is. That is essentially asking what type of UDF is this going to be. Is it going to be a simple checkbox that you can turn on and off? Is it going to be a number? The number here is basically exactly that. So I can just enter in any type of number that I want to store. The next field is a text. So text field gives me the ability to put in text. There's a few extra special options that you get when you're using a text-based UDF. So when you select a data type of text, you get an option down here to say whether it's an edit box, which all that means is it's just a box that I can type into it whatever I want, or I can make it a drop-down box, which means that I have a preset set of selections that I can pick from. So when I do a drop-down box, all I have to do is go into here and say the types of values that I want. So I can type in value 1, do an enter, value 2, enter, and value 3. So once I have those values set, it automatically sets it so that way I can select these values. Now the options that I have are I can actually limit to list. What that means is if I set it to limit to list, I can only pick options that are existing in that set of drop-downs. If I don't have that option checked, I can select what's already there, or I could just type into the box a value that doesn't exist. When you have limit to list selected, you also have the ability to select multiple selections. So I could select value 1 and 2, or I could select value 2 and 3 if I have the allow multiple selections checked. So that's a different breakdown of the UDFs. If I go back up to here, the next thing is I have a date, a time, and then a date time. So a date would let me pick a date, a time would let me pick a time, and then a date time would let me pick both a date and a time. The next is a divider and section break. All those are purely for making breaks between UDFs. So it's a way to kind of separate out how the UDFs are sorted. They don't actually store any values, but they're there to kind of just put a field to kind of break up a set of UDFs if you have a lot of UDFs in the system. And then lastly, there is a company link, a contact link, and employee link. And all these do is that means if employee link lets me pick as the UDF option any of the existing employees in the system. A contact link lets me pick any of the existing contacts within the system, and then a company link lets me pick any of the existing companies within the system. So our UPS tracking number, some tracking numbers or some account numbers involve some text. So they're a mixture of letters and numbers, so we wanted to make this a text field. I'll go ahead and say this is the account number. The next section is asking me for a category. So what I can do is I can actually specify by typing in this section a kind of category to track this under. So if I have multiple UDFs that have the same category, what it does is it adds kind of a miniature tab along with the UDF section where I can go and pull up the UDFs that match that specific tab. So right now I'll go ahead and kind of specify this as a shipping category. The next is asking me for just the alignment. Is it left, right, center alignment? For now, I can say, since we're doing a company UDF, is this only for clients? Is it only for prospects? Is it does it work for personal? I kind of tell it the different company statuses that I want this UDF to show for. So for this particular UDF, I could have it appear only for customers that are considered a client in the system. There's also an option here to require the answer. So I can make it so that way when you create this UDF, it requires you to pick a value on that UDF before you can save the company record. So you could, if you had some major information that you absolutely had to have for that particular customer record to be saved, you can make a UDF that requires you to save the record, that requires you to enter information before it will let you save the record. And then you got reset when cloned. What that does is when you clone a company record, will it keep this UDF the same, or will it reset to a different, will it reset itself and go back to a blank value when you clone the company record? So in this case here, we want to go ahead and say yes to there. The last option that I have is to specify the colors. So maybe I want this UDF to kind of to stand out apart from the existing UDFs that are in the system. I can uncheck the use default colors here, and I can give a name, or I can give a color to both the name of the UDF field and then the value that I enter on the UDF field. I can just say, I'll pull this option down. I have many different colors that I can pick from that are either defaulted. I can do custom colors and create my own set of colors there. I can make this be any type of colors that I'd want it to be, just so that it stands out from the list of the UDFs. Once I have all my information entered, I can go ahead and hit save. Now, one special thing to note about all UDFs is when you're creating a UDF, once you create the UDF, you have to exit out of the system and log back in for the UDF to be recreated. It requires the system to essentially kind of refresh itself to see that the UDF was created. So after any UDF's been made, we have to just exit and then log right back in, and we'll be, the UDF will be a field that we can do. So one last thing to look at is we looked at this option here for the show for clients for the company UDF. If I go to the contact UDF, I get essentially the same question. Do I see it on clients? Do I see it on prospects? And it adds an option here for full or limited contact. So based off of how the contact is classified, I get other fields where I can kind of show where that particular UDF is used. And then lastly, I want to click on transaction. So if I click on transaction, I get show for orders, show for estimates, show for recurring orders, and show for service tickets. So I can show this UDF under multiple different circumstances. Not only that, I can also there's also an option to require an answer. So I can have it show for orders and estimates, but I can make it require an answer for orders. So based off of these different fields, I can have the UDF show up in multiple circumstances, but require an answer under maybe only when whenever an order has been converted. So you can make a UDF be situational for whenever it requires to have information entered. So I'm going to exit out real quick to log back in to give us access to the UPS the UPS account number UDF that we created. And we'll log back in. So I'm going to pull up a company record, explore companies, and I'll open up my test company. So anytime that you need to edit a UDF, you just select the UDF tab, edit the record, and then if it's a checkbox, you just click on the checkbox and check it. If it's a number, you just go in there and type in any number. A number field will not allow you to type any text, so if I try to type in any letters there, it will prevent me. And then if we take a look up at the top here, right under where I select the UDFs, there is a section that says all fields, sales, and shipping. These are the different categories that I had mentioned. So I can click on shipping here, and that will show me all the UDFs that are classified with a category of shipping. So right now, we made it a limited list, so I just select a value here, and I go ahead and save that record. So once I edit the record and save it, my UDF is now set. So that's how you can go through and set the UDFs, is just to go through the different company, go through the different transaction records, and edit them, or when you're doing the new record, to go ahead and set that information. So the last thing that we want to do is to be able to actually use this information. So if I go ahead and close all my screens and set back to the main screen, what I want to do is I want to start off by saying Explore Companies. From here, you go ahead and refresh the list. And now I have a listing of all my companies and the usual different search fields. What I can do though is if I right-click anywhere in this section, I can go right-click, column chooser, which brings up the usual column chooser where I can pick the different fields like the address, the phone numbers to show. But also, right on the right side, there is a button that says Add Custom Columns. So if I click on that button, it adds a brand new column that contains all the company UDFs that are in the system. So I can go down and find, there's FedEx number, so I want to check that. I'm going to keep going down. I'll look for my UPS account number. I'll go ahead and also add in the prefers paper statements as well. So I just check off all the UDFs that I want to show in my Explorer screen, and it adds it as a field that I can then search on. So I can then see that ABC Pawn Shop has a FedEx number set. Kyle's Test Company has a UPS number set, and none of these companies prefer a paper statement. So now that I have that information there, I can also use the Advanced Explorer to search on that information. So what I can do is I can go up to Advanced. I can do Modify Criteria. Under Modify Criteria, I can do Company Criteria. Scroll down the list, and there should be a section asking for user-defined fields. So again, it has the same category breakdown if I want to search for a field easier, or I can do all fields to see all the different fields that are in the system. So when you click on a field, you have the option to specify what type of information that you're looking for. So in this case here, if I click on the prefers paper statement, which was a checkbox, I have the option to say I want to see where this box is checked or where the box is unchecked. If I click on the UPS account number, which has a text field, it can say value is equal to a specific value, or I can even just say I want to see all the values where the UPS account number isn't blank. So I can say UPS account number is not blank. And then refresh the list, and it gives me all the company records where that particular UDF has a value in it. This same searchable field works for the Company Explorer, it works for the Contact Explorer, and it also works on the Transaction or the Order and Estimate Explorers as well. So if I clear out this list, I can say Explore Orders. I can go and say Advanced, Modify Criteria, Order Criteria, and then on the Order Criteria there is user-defined fields broken out by the categories that they exist in, and I can just select all fields and pull up the UDF that I want to search on. So in this case here, I don't have any orders that have that particular UDF checked. But I can then tailor any kind of Explorer, any type of query to kind of use those UDFs when I'm searching for particular information, or I can just have it part of the information that shows. So if I'm looking through my list of existing orders, I can see that extra UDF field as an option to pick from the particular order. And that's about it in terms of going through and creating the UDFs in the system and being able to search and track on them.